It should come as no surprise to anyone, even remotely involved in photography, to hear that these are incredible times to be a consumer. We're spoiled by massive sensors, fast processors, and autofocus systems, megapixel counts beyond what was even fathomable a few years back, and yet, what remains the nearly unattainable piece of kit over 2 years after its release? The Fujifilm X100V, a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor, fixed lens retro rangefinder that retails for around $1,400. No, really, the demand for this camera has been so excessive in the event that you aren't up on these things that Fuji has had to actually stop accepting orders for them, so as not to permanently bury themselves in back orders. This all brings us neatly to the paper-shoot camera. Not because it's a much more readily available version of the X100V, but because it operates on many of the same principles that make Fuji's Wonderkin so desirable. But we'll get back to that. Developed initially in Taiwan back in 2013, the paper-shoot began life as an affordable, reusable alternative to disposable film cameras that were still fairly popular at the time. The idea had merit enough so to where the concept gained momentum for the next 7 years. In 2020, Papershoot North America was formed, and after a successful crowdfunding campaign, this unique photography offering has been available worldwide ever since. And it is undeniably unique. You can tell by its presentation literally right out of the box, where it arrives as an exposed camera board, with a paper shell designed to house the internals. Why paper, you ask? Well, because it's extremely environmentally friendly, and should you wear it out, it can be replaced for next to nothing. Plus, it's extremely customizable, with hundreds of shell designs available on the market, including even a blank white body with a pack of markers to set you loose on your creative way. It's tough to tell in the pics and video, but paper is a rather misleading term, as the shell is actually constructed of pressed inorganic limestone and plant seeds. It feels like slightly laminated high-quality cardboard that just happens to be water-resistant, drop-proof, and biodegradable. Inside, you're getting either a 16 or an 18 megapixel CMOS sensor mated to a Largon precision fixed lens capable of capturing both stills and video. We're looking at the 16 megapixel model here. Largon, another Taiwanese manufacturer, it should be noted, is no stranger to building small sensor camera lenses and is perhaps best known for producing the lenses for Apple's iPhones. Their lens choice here is an f2 aperture 22mm equivalent fixed focal length. The papershoot can be assembled in under a minute, the majority of which involves hunting down a pair of AAA batteries and an SD card, both of which are required for the unit to function. While some of its initial appeal as an environmentally friendly alternative to wasteful paper disposable cameras has become obsolete, thanks to the widespread transition to cell phone photography since its inception back in 2013, does that also equate to the papershoot camera outliving its usefulness? Surprisingly, no. In fact, a strong argument could be made to the contrary. It seems now more than ever photographers are seeking the inspiration of a more analog shooting experience. As technology advances and cameras become capable of making more and more decisions for us, almost removing the human factor from the picture-taking process, there is an inevitable backlash, a movement started by those willing to pay for less digital intrusion. This leads us back to the popularity of the Fuji X100V. In addition to being set up with a minimalist approach, its claim to fame lies in film simulations. That is, the images it outputs are specifically designed to duplicate the grain and color science of Fuji's film stocks throughout the years. And guess what? That's exactly what the papershoot camera is attempting. Its specs may not be as cutting edge, but the JPEGs it produces are catered to mimic the grain and slightly washed out appearance of those disposable film cameras it replaces. Now, whether or not it succeeds, we'll leave that for you to decide with the variety of sample images taken with the camera here to evaluate. In addition to the fact that it replicates the look of film, the shooting experience itself is about as accurate a rendition of shooting with a disposable film camera as you're going to find anywhere, right on down to the lack of screen. This is as minimalistic a modern digital camera as you're going to find anywhere. Aside from a front-mounted shutter button, the only other controls you will find on the papershoot camera come in the form of a switch on the rear that allows you to select from one of 4 internal filters: full color, black and white, sepia, and cool tone for that extra washed out film look that was common. Other than that, that's it. There's a USB mini jack for exporting your photos and charging the camera should you opt to run rechargeable AAAs, and we strongly suggest you do as the unit is extremely temperamental to battery choice. You can access your SD card from the side at any time. I should note that the newer 18 megapixel unit has upgraded the jack to the newer USB-C standard, and the camera does include the proper USB cord. Other than that, there are no other switches, buttons, or dials to worry about here. In fact, there isn't even a power button. Once you put your batteries into the camera board, it's always on, always in standby mode, ready to snap a picture. To do so, you simply frame your composition using the hole in the paper chute's body and press the shutter release. Whether or not you captured what you intended remains a mystery until you dump the memory card's contents into your computer or phone. Just like having to wait to get your film developed back in the day. Here's the hard truth about cameras like the paper chute and, to a lesser extent, the X100V or even the screen-lacking Leica MD. These are products designed to elicit a feeling in their usage, to hopefully spark a memory of a bygone era or to make their user think differently about approaching their photographic methods. It's true that if you were to measure pure pixel peaking performance, the camera attached to the phone in your pocket this very moment would surely outshine the paper chute. But such comparisons are missing the point entirely. Much in the way a photographer who already owns, say, a full-frame, cutting-edge Sony mirrorless may be on the waiting list for a Fuji X100V, a cell phone shooter may want to pick up a paper chute not to replace their phone, but rather because it offers a completely different shooting experience. Cameras like the paper chute exist to inspire you to get out and walk the trails or the streets or the beach that you've walked countless times before, but to try to shoot them from an entirely different perspective, one that removes your in-body image stabilization, your zoom lens capability, your automatic color correction and eye-tracking autofocus. Here, capturing the beauty of the world is about patience, timing, and a bit of luck. When you do capture a banger on the paper chute, it certainly feels like more of an accomplishment than, say, having taken the same image with your phone that required only the tap of the screen. While it's true the camera does shoot 1080p video as well as time-lapse, it sadly doesn't do so on battery power alone, instead requiring the camera be plugged into a USB power source. As such, if you're considering picking one up, best to view it as a photography stills camera first and foremost. Interestingly, the paper chute can be a bit of a contradiction in and of itself. Its small, slim form factor makes it one of the most pocketable, low-key digital cameras in existence. It can literally be taken into high-profile events completely undetected. However, once somebody does notice that unique paper body, or its form factor, expect to earn the type of awe, bewilderment, and curiosity typically reserved for brands like Leica and Hasselblad. That 22mm lens, as you might expect, shoots a very wide angle, even wider than the borders of the viewfinder opening. As such, framing your composition is more a trial and error process initially until you get used to estimating the focal length. In conclusion, photography is essentially two separate but equally gratifying experiences. On the one hand, it's about the end result. It's the photographs we view, share, and perhaps print. It's a moment in time forever frozen. On the other, it's about the experience of capturing these moments. It's the inspiration to get out there and study the lighting, the textures, the composition of the world around us, and to try to find those moments worth taking back home with us. It's the tactile feel of the camera and the excitement of reviewing the day's work in the hope of having managed to retain even a bit of a moment you're trying to preserve. It's these things that make the paper chute worthy of investigation. There are faster, simpler, more powerful, higher tech, and more affordable cameras, especially on the used market, if you simply want the cleanest pixels money can buy. But this is a piece of kit designed to make you rethink your approaches, to provide a hint of the feeling of vulnerability and having to wait to see if your photos worked out, and above all, a unique shooting experience from any of the other cameras in your closet. If you go into it expecting these things, this one won't let you down.